At 35,000 feet above the endless stretch of the Atlantic Ocean, the cabin of Flight 812 felt impossibly still, as though the world itself had paused, holding its breath along with everyone aboard. But inside first class, Amelia Hart's gasps of air shattered that fragile silence, each wheezing inhale the cruel reminder that time was slipping away for both her and the life growing within her. Her husband, Daniel Hart, a prominent tech entrepreneur, gripped her hand so tightly that his knuckles whitened, his eyes wide with panic, and his chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven rhythm as he searched the cabin in frantic desperation, calling out for a doctor, for anyone with knowledge enough to stem the tide of danger threatening to sweep them away. The flight attendants moved quickly, but their composed expressions could not hide the worry threading their voices as they announced over the intercom for a medical professional, only to hear silence in return, the kind of silence that carried the weight of helplessness, of countless lives that might end simply because the right hands were not there at the right moment. In the economy section, 17-year-old Lucas Rivera, headphones dangling around his neck, sitting quietly with a notebook filled with sketches of anatomy and medical notes he had been studying for hours, froze instantly, his instincts flaring as his mind raced, piecing together the signs. Shallow, rapid breaths, a pale tinge to the skin, lips turning an alarming shade of blue, and subtle complaints of leg swelling the previous day, all screaming pulmonary embolism in his mind. Lucas had witnessed something eerily similar with his grandmother, Mariana Rivera, just last year, when she had collapsed at home in Oakland, and he had spent every nerve of the next hours helping paramedics stabilize her before she was rushed to the hospital. The memory surged with urgency, and with a sudden, unshakable clarity, he knew that despite the murmurs of doubt around him, he had to act now. Standing abruptly, drawing the attention of passengers who had barely noticed the commotion, Lucas approached a passing attendant, his voice firm yet controlled, explaining that he believed he could help, detailing the risk pregnancy posed in combination with a potential clot, urging her to listen, to allow him the chance to intervene. The attendant hesitated, doubt written across her face as she glanced at the boy who looked far too young, far too slight to be in charge of someone's life in the air. But the worsening condition of Amelia left no room for hesitation, and another attendant finally nodded, guiding Lucas past the rows of curious, whispering passengers, past the opaque glass of first-class dividers, and toward the woman fighting for every breath. As he reached Amelia, her eyes flickered open weakly, filled with both fear and trust in the man she barely knew beside her. And Daniel, trembling, asked sharply who this boy was and why he dared approach, demanding a doctor, a professional. But Lucas met his gaze steadily, his voice unwavering, as he explained the steps that needed to be taken. Administering aspirin carefully, applying supplemental oxygen, elevating her legs, loosening tight clothing, and maintaining calm communication, all while monitoring her heart rate, all while knowing that each second could mean the difference between life and death. Daniel's panic met Lucas's composed insistence, and after a moment of excruciating silence, he yielded, whispering a shaky, "Please," allowing Lucas to take control of the situation in a cabin where class, wealth, and status fell away to nothing, leaving only the stark raw urgency of a human life in peril. Lucas's hands moved with precision. His mind recalled every detail from his studies and from the day he had cared for his grandmother, speaking softly to Amelia as he guided her breathing, ensuring the oxygen mask fit properly, watching the color return slowly to her lips, feeling the subtle relief in her body as the clot's immediate threat was temporarily mitigated by the aspirin, by his quick thinking, by his refusal to be dismissed simply because of age. Around them, passengers watched in silent awe, some skeptical, some quietly impressed, all realizing that this boy, just 17, had stepped into a moment no one else could manage. And as the captain announced an emergency landing in Frankfurt, Lucas stayed at Amelia's side, keeping her reassured, speaking gently to maintain calm, each word a tether to life as the plane descended toward safety. When the wheels touched the tarmac and paramedics swarmed the aircraft, Daniel followed closely, his hand never leaving Amelia's, watching with profound gratitude as Lucas stepped back, letting trained professionals take over while knowing he had given them the only chance they had. Hours later, in the sterile, humming halls of Frankfurt General, Amelia stabilized, and Daniel, seated heavily with exhaustion etched into his features, approached Lucas, now sitting quietly with his backpack and notes, and offered him money, the universal currency of thanks. But Lucas shook his head, explaining that what he wanted was not wealth, but health and dignity for his grandmother, Mariana, whose chronic conditions went undertreated, whose struggles were emblematic of the many in their community denied access to care.
Daniel, initially uncertain, listened as Lucas described the neighborhood, the lack of specialty doctors, the distance to pharmacies, the overburdened clinics, and the despair of elderly residents trying simply to survive. And something shifted in him, a realization that true impact came not from distant charity, but from engaging with the people whose lives were shaped by the absence of care. And in the days that followed, he and Amelia visited Mariana in her modest apartment, greeted by her sharp eyes, her commanding presence, and the faint but persistent scent of cornbread and simmering greens, where she assessed Daniel with piercing scrutiny, demanding to know how he would affect real change. And through her questions and Lucas's guidance, the couple began to understand the depth of what was required, a community-driven health initiative guided by the voices of those it was meant to serve, staffed by people who knew the struggles firsthand, with sustainable funding and comprehensive care for the most vulnerable. Over the ensuing months, the Oakfield Health Initiative was born, a clinic in Oakland shaped by Lucas's insight, a testament to the power of courage, foresight, and empathy, while Lucas earned a full scholarship to a prestigious pre-med program, his personal dream momentarily set aside in the airplane aisle, but now secured for the future. The story came full circle when Amelia gave birth to a healthy baby girl, naming her Mariana Hope Hart, honoring the woman whose care had inspired Lucas to act, whose life had been a catalyst for transformation, and whose presence reminded Daniel and Amelia that wealth and influence mattered most when wielded for dignity and service. In that moment, as the newborn's cries filled the room, the intertwined journeys of Lucas, Mariana, Amelia, and Daniel crystallized into a single truth: that heroism often comes in unexpected forms, that courage is measured not in accolades, but in the willingness to stand when no one else will, and that the legacy of one small decisive act, a boy who refused to be ignored on a plane, could ripple outward to touch countless lives, heal communities, and shape futures, proving that the most profound stories of humanity are written not in money or power, but in compassion, bravery, and the unyielding choice to act when it matters most. And as the city outside the hospital slept, unaware of the life-altering events within its walls, the quiet, steadfast resolve of a 17-year-old boy had altered destinies forever, reminding all who would hear this story that real change begins with seeing, caring, and stepping forward even when the world expects you to sit down. That sometimes the smallest hands can hold the greatest responsibility, and that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is crossed the moment courage meets opportunity. And in every heartbeat of Amelia, every grateful glance from Daniel, every proud smile from Mariana, and every hopeful dream in Lucas, there lay proof that the most unlikely heroes can emerge when necessity demands it, leaving behind a legacy of hope, action, and humanity that would echo long after the plane landed, the hospital lights dimmed, and the city returned to its rhythm. For in the choice of a 17-year-old boy to rise above fear, to trust knowledge over doubt, and to put another's life before his own ambitions, the world was reminded of its capacity for bravery, for kindness, and for transformation, showing that even in the most desperate circumstances, one courageous act can ignite change, restore faith, and build a future where compassion, vision, and dignity define true success. And as the sun rose over Frankfurt, casting golden light through hospital windows, illuminating a tiny life cradled in loving arms, the story concluded not with an ending, but with the ongoing promise that humanity's greatest achievements are born from courage, empathy, and the unwavering choice to act when it matters most. And in the hearts of all who witnessed or would later hear this tale, there would remain a lasting reminder that heroism is not about titles, age, or wealth, but about the strength to step forward, to see clearly, and to do everything within one's power to make a difference, forever binding the lives of Amelia, Daniel, Lucas, and Mariana into a testament of hope, love, and the profound impact of one brave, selfless decision.